Here's 21 NBA players I think could get traded in the next month, starting with Zion Williamson. This season, Zion Williamson has been quite the roller coaster for the New Orleans Pelicans. Despite his impressive stats when he's on the court, Zion's been sidelined for a significant chunk of the season due to injuries. He's played in just 8 of the 41 games, averaging 21.8 points, 7.6 rebounds, and 4.9 assists. His shooting percentage stands at 45.5%, which shows his effectiveness when he's actually playing. But let's face it, his health has been a huge question mark, and that's got everyone talking about his future with the Pelicans. Now here's where it gets spicy. There's been a whirlwind of trade rumors swirling around Zion. His injury history has everyone wondering if the Pelicans might finally decide to let him go. The team's record this season isn't doing them any favors either, sitting at a disappointing 9-32. With the trade deadline looming, the Pelicans might be listening to offers if they're blown away by what's on the table. If we're talking about where Zion could land, the Brooklyn Nets are looking like a prime spot. They've got the assets to make a big move with a handful of future first-round picks and some young talent that could sweeten the deal. Plus, Zion's explosive style could mesh well with the Nets' current lineup, providing them with a boost in the paint and an electrifying presence that could turn around their season. The Nets have been in need of a star player to rally around, and Zion could be that guy if he can stay healthy. Imagine this: Zion in Brooklyn, lighting up the scoreboard and dunking over defenders. The Nets fans would go wild. It's all about the fit, and with the right support and maybe a change of scenery, Zion could thrive. But remember, this is all speculative. Nothing's set in stone until the trade happens. So keep your eyes peeled, because this could be one of the most exciting NBA trades in recent years. But a star I think could be traded: DeAaron Fox. DeAaron Fox has been absolutely lighting up the court for the Sacramento Kings this season. He's putting up some incredible numbers, averaging 26.2 points, 6.1 assists, and 5.0 rebounds per game. His shooting has been on point too, with a field goal percentage of 48.2%. Despite his stellar play, the Kings have struggled, posting a record of 13 wins and 19 losses, which has everyone buzzing about potential trades. Now, let's dive into the trade talk. Fox has been at the center of some intense speculation, especially with his contract situation. He turned down a 3-year, $165 million extension, which has some folks thinking he might be on the move. With the trade deadline fast approaching, teams are definitely eyeing Fox as a game changer. And speaking of game changers, the Houston Rockets could be the perfect landing spot for him. They've got a young, dynamic team with players like Jalen Green and Alperen Sengun, who could benefit tremendously from Fox's leadership and scoring prowess. The Rockets have been sitting at a solid 21 wins and 10 losses, showing they're ready to make a push for the playoffs. Imagine Fox in Houston, where he's from. It'd be like coming home, and he could be the piece that elevates the Rockets from contenders to serious threats in the West. They've got the draft capital to make a big move with a pile of picks they can offer. Plus, the Rockets are under the luxury tax, so they can afford to bring in a star like Fox without breaking the bank. This pairing could be electric. Fox's speed and scoring, combined with Houston's young talent, could make for some highlight reel basketball. And let's not forget, if Fox can secure an All-NBA nod, he's looking at a Supermax contract, which could be part of the deal with the Rockets. It's all about the fit, and Houston could provide that perfect environment for Fox to shine even brighter. Stay tuned, because if this trade happens, it's going to be one of the biggest moves of the season. But what about the guy who is the trade rumor right now? Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler has been a roller coaster this season for the Miami Heat. He's averaged 17.6 points, 5.5 rebounds, and 4.7 assists in the 22 games he's played. However, things haven't been smooth sailing off the court. Butler was hit with a 7-game suspension for conduct detrimental to the team, and now there's talk that he wants out of Miami. The drama's real, folks. Butler has made it clear he's looking for a trade, and with the Heat sitting at a mediocre 20 wins and 18 losses, they might be ready to listen. There's been plenty of tension with the front office, and Butler's contract situation adds another layer to the saga. He's got one more year on his deal, but he's made it known he won't be signing an extension with the Heat. By the way, if you guys enjoy these deep dives, I'll be posting every day during the season. I genuinely appreciate if you could subscribe. Thanks. Anyways, the trade. Here's where it gets exciting. If Butler gets traded, the Phoenix Suns could be the best fit for him. They're currently at 25 wins and 13 losses, clearly in the mix for a deep playoff run, but they need that extra push. Butler could be that missing piece, bringing his defensive prowess and clutch playoff performances to a team already loaded with talent like Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal. Imagine this: Butler in Phoenix, where the sun shines bright, just like his basketball IQ. the Suns have the assets to make a big move with a couple of young players and draft picks to offer. Butler's leadership and experience could elevate this team to championship contenders. Plus, his defensive skills would fit perfectly with the Suns' current lineup, making them a tougher matchup on both ends of the floor. It's all about chemistry, and Butler's proven he can lead teams to the finals. In Phoenix, he wouldn't need to be the sole star. He'd complement the existing stars, creating one of the most formidable trios in the league. If this trade goes down, buckle up, because the NBA scene could get even more thrilling. But let's talk about a guy who's been hooping this season, Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine has been putting on a show this season with the Chicago Bulls. He's averaging 24.7 points, 4.4 rebounds, and 4.3 assists per game through 32 games. LaVine's shooting has been top-notch, with 50.6% from the field and 43.2% from three-point range. But here's the twist in the tale. Despite his stellar play, the Bulls are stuck in the middle of the pack with a record of 15 wins and 16 losses. This has sparked some serious trade rumors around LaVine. His hefty contract, which pays him $43 million this season, might be a hurdle, but his scoring ability is turning heads league-wide. Now let's talk about where LaVine could end up. And I'm putting all my chips on the Memphis Grizzlies being the best spot for him. The Grizzlies are currently at 21 wins and 14 losses, but they've been missing some scoring punch, especially with Morant sidelined for part of the season. LaVine could be that high-octane scorer they need. Imagine this, LaVine teaming up with Morant. The Grizzlies would have one of the most explosive backcourts in the league. LaVine's shooting and scoring would complement Morant's playmaking and driving ability, making Memphis a real threat in the Western Conference. Plus, with players like Jaren Jackson Jr. on defense, LaVine wouldn't need to carry the full load, allowing him to focus on what he does best, scoring. The Grizzlies have assets like draft picks and young talent to offer in a trade, which could make this deal feasible. LaVine in Memphis would not only boost their offense, but also make them a playoff contender with a shot at going deep in the postseason. It's all about the synergy, and this pairing could be the perfect basketball marriage. If this trade goes through, get ready for some electrifying basketball from the Grizzlies. But let's go back to New Orleans. Brandon Ingram has been putting up some solid numbers this season for the New Orleans Pelicans. He's averaging 22.2 points, 5.6 rebounds, and 5.2 assists per game. However, the Pelicans are struggling, which has everyone talking about Ingram's future with the team. The trade buzz around Ingram is getting louder. With his contract set to expire at the end of this season, the Pelicans might be thinking about cashing in on him before he hits free agency. The word on the street is they're looking for a shakeup, and Ingram could be the first domino to fall, given his all-star caliber play. Now, let's chat about where he could go, and I've got my eyes on the Golden State Warriors. They're at 14 wins and 7 losses, but they need that extra scoring punch to make another run at the championship. Ingram could be the perfect fit. Stepping in as the secondary scorer, imagine this, Ingram in the Bay Area. He'd thrive in Steve Kerr's offensive system, where his mid-range game and improved shooting would flourish. Plus, with players like Curry, Draymond Green, and JK, Ingram wouldn't have to carry the team. He could focus on being that go-to scorer in clutch moments. The Warriors have assets to make a deal happen, with players like Andrew Wiggins or Moses Moody that could be part of a trade package, along with some draft picks. It's all about chemistry, and Ingram's versatile offensive skills could mesh well with the Warriors' style of play. If the Warriors can swing this trade, they'd instantly become one of the most dangerous teams in the league, combining Ingram's scoring with their championship experience. It's a match made in basketball heaven, and if it happens, you better believe the Warriors will be back in the thick of the title hunt. But what about a guy we all know has been amazing this year? Cam Johnson has been on fire this season for the Brooklyn Nets. He's averaging 19.5 points, 4.3 rebounds, and 2.9 assists per game. His shooting percentages are through the roof, with 49.6% from the field and 43.6% from beyond the arc. Despite his individual success, the Nets are struggling with a record of 9 wins and 31 losses, making Johnson a hot topic in trade discussions. Here's where it gets exciting. Johnson's contract, which pays him $23,600,000 this season, has 2 more years left, but the Nets might be looking to rebuild. With the trade deadline coming up, they could be open to moving him for the right offer. Johnson's versatility as a shooter and defender makes him a valuable piece for any team looking to bolster their roster. Now, let's talk about where he could land, and I'm all in on the San Antonio Spurs being the best spot. They're currently sitting at 17 wins and 19 losses, which is pretty good, but they could use that extra offensive firepower to complement Victor Wembanyama's defensive prowess. Johnson could be the sharpshooter they need to stretch the floor. Imagine this: Johnson in San Antonio. His three-point shooting would light up the AT&T Center, providing spacing for Wembanyama and the rest of the squad to work their magic. The Spurs have a treasure trove of draft picks they could use to make this trade happen, along with young players who might interest the Nets. Johnson's presence would not only improve the Spurs' offense, but also add a veteran voice to their youthful lineup. His ability to play both forward positions would give coach Greg Popovich flexibility in his rotations. If this trade goes through, the Spurs could see an immediate jump in performance, making them a dark horse in the Western Conference. It's all about the perfect fit, and Johnson in San Antonio could be just that. But let's go back to Chicago. Nikola Vucevic has been absolutely dominating this season for the Chicago Bulls. He's averaging 20.5 points, 10.2 rebounds, and 3.3 assists per game. His shooting efficiency is through the roof with a field goal percentage of 58.7 and a three-point percentage of 47.4. But here's the catch. Despite his stellar play, the Bulls are stuck at 15 wins and 16 losses, fueling all sorts of trade rumors around Vucevic. The trade talks are heating up. With his contract set to pay him $20 million this season, the Bulls might be looking to shake things up. They've already shown they're willing to move veterans, and Vucevic could be next on the list, especially if they're aiming for a rebuild or a different direction. His value on the market is sky high, given his versatile scoring and rebounding. Now, let's dive into where he could go, and I'm betting big on the Detroit Pistons being the perfect spot for him. They've got young talent like Cade Cunningham, who could use a veteran like Vucevic to mentor and complement their game. Imagine this: Vucevic in Detroit. His scoring and rebounding would instantly elevate the Pistons' front court. Plus, his ability to shoot from deep would open up the floor for Cunningham and the rest of the squad. The Pistons have the assets to make this happen, with draft picks and young players that could interest the Bulls. Vucevic's experience would be invaluable for a team like Detroit, which is trying to build a sustainable contender. He could be the missing piece to turn those close games into wins, providing leadership and a reliable scoring option. If this trade goes down, the Pistons would not only boost their immediate performance, but also set a foundation for long-term success. It's all about the right fit, and Vucevic in Detroit could be a game changer. But what about the guy out there in Washington, Kyle Kuzma? Kyle Kuzma has had a rocky season with the Washington Wizards. He's averaging 15.8 points, 5.6 rebounds, and 1.9 assists per game, but his performance has been inconsistent. He's shooting 42% from the field and a career low 27.6% from three. The Wizards are having a tough year too, with a record of 5 wins and 24 losses, which has everyone talking about Kuzma's future. Here's the juicy part. Trade rumors are swirling around Kuzma like never before. His contract, which pays him $23,500,000 this season, is descending each year, making him an attractive asset for teams looking to bolster their roster without breaking the bank. The Wizards might be ready to hit the reset button on their team, and Kuzma could be a key piece in that transformation. Now, let's talk about where he could end up. And I'm putting all my money on the Los Angeles Lakers as the best spot. Kuzma started his career there, and a return could be the perfect fit. They need more depth in scoring off the bench. Kuzma could provide that, bringing his championship experience and versatility to the lineup. Imagine this: Kuzma back in the purple and gold. He knows the system. He knows LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and he could thrive in a role where he doesn't need to be the primary scorer, but can be that spark plug off the bench. The Lakers have the assets, like future picks, or players like Gabe Vincent or Rui Hachimura. That could be part of a deal. Kuzma's return would not only boost the Lakers' offense, but also add that familiarity and chemistry that can't be bought in the market. It's all about finding the right fit, and Kuzma in LA feels like a storybook return. If this trade happens, you can bet the Lakers would be even more dangerous, with Kuzma ready to make some noise in the Western Conference. But what about this? Bogdan Bogdanovic has been out of action this season for the Brooklyn Nets due to left foot surgery. He hasn't played a single game, which has left fans and analysts eager to see him back on the court. His absence is a big deal for the Nets, who are struggling with a record of 9 wins and 31 losses. Now, let's jump into the trade rumors. Bogdanovic's injury has put a pause on his contributions, but his reputation as a sharpshooter makes him an attractive trade target. His contract is partially guaranteed at $2 million for next season, making him a potentially low-risk, high-reward acquisition. With the Nets possibly looking to rebuild, Bogdanovic could be on the move if the right offer comes along. Here's where it gets exciting. I think the Milwaukee Bucks are the best landing spot for him. They're at 23 wins and 7 losses, and while they're doing well, they could use that extra scoring punch, especially from beyond the arc. Bogdanovic, when healthy, is known for his three-point shooting, averaging around 40% in his career. Imagine this, Bogdanovic in Milwaukee. His shooting would give Giannis and Damian Lillard more space to operate, making the Bucks' offense even more lethal. The Bucks have the assets to make this deal, with players like Pat Connaughton or draft picks that could interest the Nets. Bogdanovic's veteran presence and scoring ability off the bench would add another dimension to Milwaukee's already potent lineup. His return to form could be the final piece in pushing the Bucks towards another championship run. If this trade happens, the Bucks would be getting a proven scorer to complement their star players, potentially turning them into an unstoppable force in the Eastern Conference. And then I want to look at this. Jonas has been a rock for the Washington Wizards this season. He's putting up 11.8 points and 7.6 rebounds per game, playing in 25 out of 38 games so far. His shooting has been solid, with 58% from the field, but the Wizards are having a tough year, sitting at 5 wins and 24 losses. This has sparked some serious trade talks around Valanciunas. Here's the scoop. With the Wizards looking to rebuild, Valanciunas could be on the move. His contract is quite team-friendly at $9,900,000 this season, and it's got 2 more years left, making him an appealing target for teams needing a reliable center. The Wizards might be willing to deal him for the right package, especially if they're aiming to accumulate assets for their future. Now, let's look at where he might end up, and I'm all for the Atlanta Hawks being the best spot. They've been inconsistent, particularly on the boards. Valanciunas would bring that much-needed rebounding and interior presence to complement Trae Young's playmaking. Imagine this, Valanciunas in Atlanta. His ability to score and grab rebounds would give the Hawks a strong anchor in the paint, improving their defense and second-chance opportunities. Plus, his experience could be invaluable for a young team trying to find its footing. The Hawks have pieces like Bogdan Bogdanovic or draft picks that could be attractive in a trade scenario. Valanciunas would fit perfectly into the Hawks lineup, providing the physicality and veteran leadership they need. This trade could be the key to turning Atlanta into a more formidable team, especially in the Eastern Conference where every game counts. If the Hawks manage to snag Valanciunas, they could see an immediate uplift in their performance, making them a team to watch out for as the season progresses. How about this though? Walker Kessler has been a revelation for the Utah Jazz this season. He's averaging 10.8 points, 11.4 rebounds, and 2.5 blocks per game, showcasing his defensive prowess and making a significant impact in the paint. The Jazz, however, are struggling with a record of 8 wins and 25 losses, which has many wondering about Kessler's future with the team. Now, let's dive into the trade buzz. There's been a lot of chatter about Kessler possibly being on the move, especially since the Jazz seem to be in a rebuild mode. His contract is very team-friendly at $2,900,000 this season, with a team option for $4,800,000 next season. This makes him a very attractive asset for teams looking to bolster their front court without breaking the bank. Here's where it gets exciting. I think the New York Knicks would be the best landing spot for him and have been looking for that defensive anchor to solidify their rotation. Kessler's rim protection and rebounding would be a perfect match for the Knicks, who are trying to make a push in the Eastern Conference. Imagine this, Kessler in New York. His presence would allow the Knicks to play a more robust defense, giving them the flexibility to switch between different lineups. With players like Jalen Brunson and Towns, Kessler could focus on his strengths, protecting the rim and grabbing boards. The Knicks have assets like draft picks and young players they could offer in a trade, which might intrigue the Jazz, who are looking to gather assets for their long-term plan. Kessler's addition could transform the Knicks into one of the more defensively sound teams in the league, providing them with the depth and versatility they need. If this trade happens, it would not only boost the Knicks' championship aspirations, but also give Kessler a bigger stage to showcase his talents. It's all about finding the right fit, and Kessler in New York could be a slam dunk. Now think about this. Lauri Markkanen has been an absolute force for the Utah Jazz this season. He's averaging 24.5 points, 8.4 rebounds, and 2.2 assists per game. His shooting is on point too, with a field goal percentage of 49% and an impressive 42% from three-point range. However, the Jazz are having a tough year. with a record of 8 wins and 25 losses, which has sparked some serious trade talks around Markkanen. Here's where it gets thrilling. Markkanen's performance has made him one of the most sought-after players on the trade market. His contract, which pays him $18,400,000 this season, is the final year of his deal, and he's set to become a free agent. This makes him a prime target for teams looking to either make a playoff push or plan for the future. Utah might be tempted to trade him if they can't secure a long-term deal, especially with their rebuilding phase in mind. Now let's talk about the perfect landing spot, and I'm betting on the Los Angeles Clippers. They're at 17 wins and 11 losses, but they could use Markkanen's scoring and versatility to take their team to the next level. Imagine Mark alongside Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. That's a lineup that could light up the scoreboard. Markkanen in LA would be electrifying. His ability to stretch the floor would complement the Clippers' dynamic duo perfectly, giving them another scoring option and a reliable shooter from anywhere on the court. The Clippers have the assets to make this happen, with players like Norman Powell or draft picks that could intrigue the Jazz. His presence would not only boost the Clippers' offense, but also provide a significant boost in the paint with his rebound. If this trade goes through, the Clippers would gain a versatile forward who could help them contend for a championship. It's all about synergy, and Markkanen in LA could be the key to unlocking the Clippers' full potential in the Western Conference. But let's look at this. Bruce Brown has had a challenging start to this season with the Toronto Raptors. He's been sidelined due to a knee injury, undergoing arthroscopic surgery in late September, and hasn't played a single game. Before his injury last season, Brown averaged 9.6 points, 3.8 rebounds, and 2.7 assists per game, showing his versatility on both ends of the court. The Raptors, with only 8 wins and 25 losses, might be looking into reshuffling their roster, and Brown's situation has certainly stirred the trade pot. Here's the scoop on the trade talks. Brown's contract has a team option for $23 million for the next season, making him an interesting trade piece. His versatility, especially on defense, and his championship experience from his time with the Denver Nuggets make him a valuable asset. If the Raptors decide not to pick up his option, or if they see better value in trading him, he could be on the move before the deadline. Now, let's talk about where he could end up, and I'm all in on the Sacramento Kings being the best fit, and they could use a player like Brown to add depth and defensive tenacity. His ability to play multiple positions would be a perfect match for the Kings' fast-paced style. Imagine this, Brown in Sacramento. He'd bring that defensive grit and versatility that the Kings need, especially with players like DeAaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis leading the charge. Brown could be that glue guy who does the dirty work, allowing stars to focus on scoring. Plus, the Kings have assets like draft picks or players they could offer in a trade scenario that might interest Toronto. Brown's addition could turn the Kings into a more balanced team, providing them with the defensive backbone they've sometimes lacked. If this trade happens, it could be the spark Sacramento needs to make a playoff push, with Brown ready to make an impact in the Western Conference. This one I really like. Jeremy Grant has been putting up some solid numbers this season for the Portland Trail Blazers. His shooting from the field is at 45%, and he's making 40.2% of his three-pointers. However, the Blazers are at a disappointing start. Here's the exciting part. Trade rumors are circling around Grant like vultures. His contract, which averages $32 to $33 million per year, runs through the 2027 to 2028 season with a player option for the final year. Given Portland's rebuild, they might be looking to get some valuable assets in return for Grant, especially since his contract could be seen as a significant investment for a young team. Now let's talk about the perfect landing spot, and I'm all for the Philadelphia 76ers. Imagine Grant back in Philly, where he started his NBA career. His ability to defend multiple positions and score from anywhere on the court would fit perfectly with Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. Grant in Philly would be a match made in basketball heaven. His defensive skills would complement Embiid's dominance inside, and his shooting would stretch the floor, making the Sixers' offense even more dynamic. The Sixers have assets like future picks or players that could interest Portland in a trade scenario. His return to Philadelphia could be the boost they need to solidify their status as title contenders. If this trade goes down, the Sixers would not only gain a versatile wing player, but also someone with playoff experience, potentially making them a formidable force in the Eastern Conference. But let's stay in city. Robert Williams has had a rough go this season with the Portland Trail Blazers. He's only played in 7 games, averaging just 5.6 points and 5.3 rebounds with 1.4 blocks per game. His shooting percentage is at an impressive 62%, but injuries have kept him out of the lineup for most of the season. The Blazers are in a rebuilding phase, and Williams might be part of their trade discussions. Here's where it gets spicy. Williams has been in the trade rumor mill due to his injury history and the Blazers' depth at the center position. His contract, which pays him $12,400,000 this season, has one more year left at $13,200,000. With Portland looking to gather assets for their future, Williams could be on the move if the right offer comes along. Now let's talk about where he could land, and I'm putting my money on the Denver Nuggets being the perfect spot. And while they're doing well, they could use an upgrade at the center position for depth and defensive stability. Williams, when healthy, is known for his shot blocking and athleticism around the rim. Imagine this: Williams in Denver. His defensive presence would be a huge boost alongside Nikola Jokic, allowing the Nuggets to switch between different defensive schemes. Plus, Williams' energy off the bench would provide a spark that could be crucial in playoff games. The Nuggets have assets like future picks or players they could offer in a trade, which might intrigue Portland. Williams joining the Nuggets could be the key to their championship aspirations, providing the necessary defensive backbone to complement their offensive firepower. If this trade happens, it could make Denver one of the most dangerous teams in the Western Conference, with Williams ready to make an impact when he's back to full health. Nick Claxton has had a bit of a roller coaster season with the Brooklyn Nets. He's played in 23 games, averaging 9.3 points, 7.0 rebounds, and 1.3 blocks per game. His field goal percentage is at 59.4%, but he struggled with consistency, especially on defense, where he's known for his shot blocking. The Nets, with a record of 9 wins and 31 losses, are in a tough spot, which has fueled trade rumors around Claxton. Here's the twist. Claxton's contract, which pays him $24,500,000 this season, extends through 2027 to 2028, making him an interesting piece for teams looking for a young center with potential. With the Nets possibly looking to rebuild, Claxton could be on the trading block if they decide to pivot towards youth and draft capital. Now let's talk about the ideal landing spot, and I'm all in on the Phoenix Suns. Claxton's defensive skills and rim protection would fit perfectly in Phoenix, where they've got an offensive trio of Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal. Imagine Claxton in Phoenix. His length and agility would make him a nightmare for opponents trying to score inside, complementing the Suns' already potent offense. The Suns have assets like future picks or players like Jusuf Nurkic that could interest the Nets in a trade scenario. Claxton's arrival could be the defensive anchor the Suns need, turning them into a more complete team capable of making a deep playoff run. If this trade goes through, you can bet the Suns would be even more formidable, with Claxton ready to make his mark in the Western Conference. Kellin Johnson has been on a roller coaster this season with the San Antonio Spurs. He's played in 34 games, averaging 14.7 points, 5.1 rebounds, and 1.5 assists per game. His shooting has been decent, with 47.5% from the field, but he's only knocking down 32% from three-point range. Here's the exciting part. Johnson's name has been thrown into the trade rumor mix, especially since his contract is at a very reasonable $20 million this season, with 3 more years at descending values. With the Spurs potentially looking to build around Victor Wembanyama, they might consider moving Johnson if they can secure assets that align better with their long-term plans. Now, let's dive into where he could end up, and I'm betting big on the Washington Wizards being the perfect spot, and they're in dire need of a scoring wing who can also contribute on the boards. Johnson's versatility would fit nicely with their young core, providing both offense and some leadership. Imagine this: Johnson in Washington. He'd instantly become one of their top scorers and a go-to guy in clutch situations. Plus, his experience would be invaluable for a team that's looking to rebuild with players like Bilal Coulibaly. The Wizards have assets like draft picks or players they could offer in a trade, which might entice the Spurs. Johnson could be the spark the Wizards need to start turning their season around, providing them with a reliable scorer and a player who's shown he can perform in high-pressure situations. If this trade happens, it could be a game changer for Washington, with Johnson ready to make waves in the Eastern Conference. Chris Middleton has been making waves this season for the Milwaukee Bucks. He's played in 21 games, averaging 15.1 points, 5.3 assists, and 4.7 rebounds per game. His shooting has been sharp, hitting 47% from the field and 38.1% from three. However, the Bucks might be considering reshaping their roster, especially with Middleton coming off bilateral ankle surgeries last summer. Here's where the plot thickens. Middleton's contract is a hefty $34,500,000 this season, with a player option for the next. Given his age and injury history, the Bucks might be open to trade discussions if they believe they can improve their championship chances with different pieces. There's chatter about teams looking for a versatile wing player with playoff experience like Middleton. Now, let's talk about the best landing spot, and I'm all in on the Los Angeles Lakers, and they could use Middleton's scoring and playmaking to elevate their game. Imagine Middleton alongside LeBron James and Anthony Davis. His clutch performances in the playoffs would be a massive boost for the Lakers' championship aspirations. Middleton in LA would be a dream scenario. His mid-range game and ability to create shots would give LeBron and AD more room to operate. Plus, his defensive skills would help shore up the Lakers' perimeter defense. The Lakers have assets like future picks or players like Rui Hachimura they could offer in a trade scenario, which might interest Milwaukee. If this trade happens, the Lakers would gain a proven all-star who could be the missing piece in their championship puzzle. Middleton's addition would not only boost their offense, but also provide the veteran savvy needed in crucial playoff moments. It's all about finding the right fit, and Middleton in LA could be the key to reigniting the Lakers' title hopes. Julius Randle has had an up-and-down season with the Minnesota Timberwolves. He's played in 39 games, averaging 20 points, 9.5 rebounds, and 3.8 assists per game. His shooting has been solid, with 46% from the field and 35% from three. And there's been chatter about Randle's fit with the team, especially after the blockbuster trade that sent him from the New York Knicks. Here's where it gets spicy. Trade rumors are heating up around Randle, whose contract is set at $30,900,000 this season, with a player option for $32,100,000 next year, with the Timberwolves potentially looking to retool their roster around Anthony Edwards. Randle could be on the move if the right deal presents itself. Now, let's talk about where he could end up, and I'm betting on the Utah Jazz as the best spot, and Randle's scoring and rebounding would be a massive boost. Imagine Randle in Utah, where he could be the veteran leader for a young, developing team. Randle in Salt Lake City would be a game changer. His ability to score from all three levels and grab boards would fit perfectly with the Jazz's current lineup, providing a go-to scorer and a mentor for players like Lauri Markkanen and Walker Kessler. Utah has assets like future draft picks they could offer in a trade, which might intrigue Minnesota, who are looking to gather young talent or draft capital. If this trade happens, Randle could revitalize the Jazz's offense while also helping to shape their young core. His experience in high-pressure situations would be invaluable for Utah's long-term vision. It's all about the perfect fit, and Randle in Utah could be the key to accelerating the Jazz's rebuild into a competitive resurgence. Bradley Beal has been a mixed bag for the Phoenix Suns this season. He's played in 24 games, averaging 18.1 points, 3.7 rebounds, and 3.2 assists per game. His shooting percentages are decent, with 45.5% from the field and 37.6% from three. But there's been a ton of buzz about Beal's future, especially with his hefty contract. Here's where it gets wild. Beal's contract is massive, paying him $50,200,000 this season, with even more in the coming years. His no-trade clause adds another layer of complexity, but with the Suns possibly looking to shake things up around Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, there's talk that Beal might waive it for the right opportunity. Now, let's talk about where he could land, and I'm all in on the San Antonio Spurs being the perfect spot. And while they've got Victor Wembanyama, they could use Beal's scoring punch and experience to help guide their young squad. Imagine this, Beal in San Antonio. His scoring ability would be a dream complement to Wembanyama's defensive presence, making the Spurs a much more dynamic team. Beal could take some scoring pressure off the young stars, providing leadership and clutch performances. The Spurs have the assets, like draft picks or young players, that could catch Phoenix's eye if Beal decides to waive his no-trade clause. If this trade goes through, it could be a game changer for the Spurs, instantly elevating them in the Western Conference standings. Beal's veteran savvy would not only boost their offense, but also help in the development of their promising young core. It's all about finding the right fit, and Beal in San Antonio could be the key to turning the Spurs into a contender once again. Cam Whitmore has had an intriguing season with the Houston Rockets. He's played in 22 games, averaging 9.1 points and 2.8 rebounds. But his shooting has been inconsistent, with 42.8% from the field and a struggling 25.8% from three. Despite these numbers, Whitmore has shown flashes of the potential that made him a first-round pick. His performance against the Wizards, where he scored 17 points on 6 for 8 shooting, stands out. However, there's been chatter about Whitmore's role. Here's the exciting part. Trade rumors have been swirling around Whitmore, particularly because he's seen limited minutes with Houston's crowded rotation. His contract is a rookie scale deal, which makes him an attractive piece for rebuilding teams looking for high upside talent at a low cost. If Houston decides they can't provide him consistent minutes, they might consider moving him for future assets or players that fit their immediate needs better. Now let's talk about where he could end up. And I'm betting on the Washington Wizards being the best spot, clearly in rebuild mode, and Whitmore could be the young, dynamic scorer they need. He's from the DMV area, so it would be a homecoming for him, and his athleticism and scoring ability could shine in Washington's young lineup. Whitmore in DC would be electric. With the Wizards looking to build around young talent, he could get the playing time he needs to develop. His drive to the basket and potential as a 3-level scorer would fit nicely with players like Bilal Coulibaly. The Wizards could offer draft picks or young players in a trade, which might intrigue Houston if they're looking to reshape their roster. If this trade happens, it could be the perfect scenario for Whitmore to prove his worth, giving him the opportunity to be a key piece in the Wizards' rebuild. It's all about finding the right fit, and Whitmore in Washington could be that match made in basketball heaven. If you guys enjoyed this, I'll be posting every day during this season. I'd genuinely appreciate if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.